Stand with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, please, Rocky.
Oh. Yeah, I should do the roll call. Can you do the roll call? I don't have the.
Oh, can I do it? Think I can. So we got Bert, we got Jeff, myself, we have a new member, Alvin Riley, is present. He's been, assigned by the mayor, but he hasn't been accepted or voted on at the council yet, so that'll happen at the next council.
Foxtrot Charlie dash 02.
Glenn, and is, mayor gonna be on
He said he would.
Zoom?
Let's start
I
with
think the roll call is everyone's present.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, I am not the morals expert at doing this, so y'all bear with me if I mess it up every now and then. So the next thing on the agenda is approval of the August 29th minutes. Do I have a motion? Any comments on those minutes?
Can you look up the cap itself for me?
Welcome,
Maybe
Mayor.
that number, and then maybe I can do some searching on my own if I have the cat number.
Glenn, we hear you. Someone needs to mute their phone, please, on the Zoom call. Got it. What was your comment?
Do we have a copy of the minutes from last meeting?
He sent them. Oh, email. It's in the email and it's been posted online, so I think that was a hard copy.
Gotcha.
And I didn't bring the hard copy with me. I read it.
Okay.
Rocky may be going again right now.
Maybe Rocky's headed off to get him. I'm gonna wait until he comes back.
Okay.
Hey, Glenn,
I'll
Tillery.
I'll keep searching. Thank you.
Glenn Tillery. Hello.
No.
Glenn, are you on?
He is.
Hello, Glenn. We think you have your, you need to mute your mic.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right, thank you.
Well, right now we're waiting for a motion of approval for the August 29th minutes. And see if Rocky brings something back. What's that? I'm not reading this, okay. Again, Bird.
Get it back.
Yes, where Rocky went. Disappeared. So I guess I will go ahead and, the meeting, or the approval of the minutes is good for me, and I will state that, get a motion to approve them.
You're in. I'm not voting.
You can make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, you have a motion for approval. You have a second?
I moved that the previous minutes be approved.
Okay, we have a second. Guess that's a second since we've had two.
He's got to record it. I don't know if he's coming back or not, but he's got to take the vote. Yes.
Well, we're waiting on Rocky to see what the procedure is.
Yeah, no, let me figure that out, because if you're not the one doing it, do we elect officers? Do we have a secretary? Okay, that, got it. I was
That's me,
confused.
okay.
So you're taking the vote, and yeah, Rocky's, he's doing other things right now, so
Oh,
we're gonna
okay.
proceed without,
So we
without.
can proceed without
Yeah.
it. Okay, that's what we're aware of. Okay, so we have, a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No, and that passes. So today we have, an agenda, and let's, request, a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I second. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so let's continue with old business. And I want to make one observation. If you get online, the FAA website for airports, it gives you the outstanding grants from the FAA's viewpoint. And actually, we got notified in the past 2 days that we've received a grant for $761,444. And if you add all that up, that comes out to be $4,329,835 over the past 20 years, since 2005. So I think that satisfies that list. And we have other grants from New Mexico, correct? State of New Mexico. Do we know what the total of that is at all?
1.2 for the hangars,
Okay,
and another 460 for snow removal equipment. And that's all I know.
okay, very good. And have those been spent, or?
No, they haven't.
Those are remaining.
I'm not sure how much the RAS grant is.
Okay, very good. Any other comment?
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt. Scott, the raise grant, that's rural air service, correct?
Sure.
Oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. I see. So the rural agreement, and that agreement is with the county? That grant, I mean?
I don't know. I don't have that answer.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rural air service enhancement grant. It has nothing to do with the airport transfer to the county, which is the charge of this committee.
But I guess I'm asking, is the grant with the city or the grant with
Again,
the
it's,
county?
I mean, this committee's
Doesn't matter.
been constituted to deal with the transfer
Right,
from the county to the village, for essentially the FBO. And that's what we ought to be focused on. The race grant has to do with charter air service in and out of the airport, which doesn't have anything to do with this committee's charge.
that's true, I guess, in the transition of the airport viewpoint, that part of the transition of the airport also is going to be determined by how much income we have and how we finance that in the long term. So it will matter in the end, I think. So we've been trying to track all that just to see if it's got requirements and things that would affect us cost wise. So that's my opinion. Any comments on that?
Just to answer, Mr. Davis's question, that the rural air service enhancement is an agreement between the county, correct? And the state, or, and I know what we're charged with, Mark, that agreement is with the county. Is that a correct statement?
No,
No? Okay. Who's the agreement with?
yeah, so there is I mean, you have to have a governmental entity or nonprofit, that applies for that grant. That was done in coordination with the county. Mayor Lindsay also attended when we were lobbying in Santa Fe. It's a $1.438 million grant, I believe, is the amount. And that again would be with, to be used to supplement operating expense for the carrier. You know, again, because the county currently runs this airport, it would be between them and, in this case, Advanced Air is the carrier. We have provided dates because the amount of the grant was about 50% of what was requested. It would not allow operations throughout the year. So we've provided a calendar of when the sort of the best dates to operate would be. That's about 5 days a week during the winter ski season, when we anticipate the most travelers, and then a smattering of dates throughout the summer months. That would coincide probably with everybody's expectation of when the village is the most busy, and we could expect the planes to be full in the summer. It's gonna obviously present some challenges. You know, it's easier to book when you know the flight's gonna happen week in, week out. We don't have that opportunity given the size of the grant that was provided. So trying to be judicious with the dates, that's obviously gonna be up to the carrier. But I think, this is just my opinion, that the amount given by the state is sort of a, let's see what they do with it, to see if we're successful in packing those flights, and what that would portend for future grant amounts for this. But again, you know, I don't want to get off track, and it seems to me that this committee does that at times because there's a lot of really fun things to talk about here. But I think the first step ought to be getting control of the airport from the county to the village. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. At least that's my understanding of it. And there's quite a bit that needs to be done before we start talking about all of the other things on this agenda for today. But that's just my opinion. Back to you.
No, copy all, Mark. Thanks very much for that explanation.
Sure.
I know I learned a heck of a lot just by that.
Yeah.
The simple answer was just the county.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I appreciate that. That certainly.
I mean, again, you know, a private corporation can't apply for the grant.
Copy all.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
And to explain the process, we have to convince the FAA that this is going to be an acceptable transfer. So it's not an agreement directly between the county and the city. That is the agreement that needs to happen, and I think is scheduled to happen with the resolution at the next council meeting. But the FAA really is going to be the one to determine if we have the capabilities to do that or not. And they can turn it down. So part of our concern is to make sure we come up with the ability to write that final plan. In fact, we'll talk about the business plan that's drafted currently on the website in a minute. Go ahead.
Before we pass the financials, Scott, I'll address this to you. There's one piece missing in here, the fuel containment funds and et cetera.
I believe Mike's was still working on that.
Okay, so the funding was supposed to have already occurred. It was a matter of getting the engineering done.
Yes,
From what I understand.
I wrote 2 IFE letters just last week regarding, getting Allison Brooks to get 2 additional grants going. That might be one of them. The nature of it.
It wouldn't hurt, it would be with her state, so, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you then.
So I think before you depart from this, we might need to add a New Mexico overview to get the full story.
Good idea.
I don't know if it appears that everything revolves around the engineering firm for the county, so maybe that's where we gotta go to find out where all this money is supposed to be.
He's not online today, it looks like.
So that just, I'd throw that out there.
Okay, thank you. Good. Yeah, I think we need to add that list of projects, active minutes at least. Okay, item B, status of Colfax County's compliance plan document. I haven't seen it yet. Has anyone received it? Still not. Anyone online, have a knowledge of that compliance plan? Have we received any documents from the county at all? Guess not. I can't hear anyone anyway. Is anyone, no one's speaking, and I take that to be a no.
Mayor, are you up?
Yeah, I'm on the meeting, but I don't have anything from the county as far as a compliance plan now.
Okay. Well, we'll still need to ask for that document. And ultimately, we'll need it for writing our final input to the FAA, of course.
Do we, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, do we want to, push the FAA to see if they have a copy of it that we can get? Maybe throw another email out to,
Sure.
ADO and see if they can get it.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody's gotta have it.
Yes, they surely ought to have one themselves. Or they wouldn't be happy at all.
Could we also, if you don't mind, sir, ask for the previous, 5010 inspections? Maybe going back even farther than, I know, Fraser, you're familiar with the last 2, but maybe you can go back. Because part of the, obviously, part of the picture the FAA is gonna look at is how compliant this airport has been and how are we gonna do things, taking it over and being, so a deep look back might be advisable.
I think so.
Will that be on the FAA site, Jeff, do you know?
It may be out there in Never Never Land, but she might be able to direct us.
She meeting out?
Allison, yes, our contact person, so.
Then let's ask.
Yeah.
Since we're not getting any response from the county. Okay, so that completes item B. Item C, report on legal advice and status of MOU resolution to Colfax County. Has that all been completed? Mayor, you have any knowledge of the status of the MOU resolution to county?
The attorneys are still working on the MOU. I think their intent is to just make sure the resolutions both get passed. But it is in front of our village attorneys, on-call attorneys.
You don't need anything from us, obviously, I don't think.
Not at this time. I'll check back in with them. I have not over the last 2 weeks concerning this matter, this airport transfer. But as far as I know, they wanted to see the resolutions both passed, and then they would prepare an MOU.
Okay. And we have no part in that, so we'll continue to item D. Candidates and statement of work for consultants for our ultimate compliance with the FAA.
We met with Dan Allison.
Anybody have any other comments for inputs? I know we've had a few, but just any addition.
Mr. Mayor, has there been any more talk or what's the status if you could help us with this a little bit on consulting and directions and conversations maybe that have been had?
Well, I mean, I think, Mr. Gilmer, you were present during a tour, of one of the possible consultants. Was it Allison?
Yes,
Yes.
he's right next to you there on the screen.
And so he was in person. I wasn't, there for the tour, but you might be able to fill us in a little bit more there. That's really the only update that I've been given as far as consultants since the last meeting.
May I ask you a question? What's the threshold that we meet when we decide to do a consulting firm? What is the village looking at for that threshold?
Well, as far as threshold, can you give me a little more?
Well, when are you gonna decide to hire a consultant? After the vote of resolutions?
The resolution, MOU, yeah, I think that's the proper time to hire the consultant.
Okay.
I just want to be assured that we're all moving in the same direction before we spend any village dollars.
Okay, thank you.
And do you have someone assigned to write that, proposal? If we do an RFP, or are we gonna be providing some of that input?
I think we'll need to provide some of that input as a committee, yes.
Okay,
So I've also, since the last meeting, spoken with Guy Ruel. He is the Director of Aviation at DuBois and King. He's had some experience. I liked him quite a bit on the phone. He wasn't trying to overplay his hand. Wasn't necessarily, point was that his plate is extremely full, but if he thought it was a good fit, he'd be very interested in talking more about it. He has worked on 2 of these types of transfers for airports over quite a long career. So it's not core to what DuBois and King does, but he does have significant experience helping to navigate this kind of transfer. And so if we do have a scope of work or an RFP, I told him that I would provide it. But you know, we're so early on right now, we don't know the amount that we're thinking, and that would sort of dictate what a consultant could do for us. But again, did like him. It sounds like he's got good contacts in the industry and has done this before. Once as recently in Mammoth in California, so another sort of resort town. So if we do get a scope of work RFP, something, be happy to pass it along, and I'm sure he'd be happy to jump on it.
Yeah.
One of these calls in the future, and you all could meet him and ask questions as well. So.
Do you want to talk about the meeting with,
you mean Saturday?
yeah, with
That had nothing
ADO?
to do with this.
Well, it was really the scope of the project is what I was thinking, or do you want me to address that?
Yeah, you can address it if you're gonna talk about the scope, yeah.
What we're talking about, I apologize, the new ADO assistant manager of Fort Worth was here a week or so ago. And, so he is actually Miss Brooks's boss, in Dallas, Fort Worth. And, it was very apparent, and Mark, this is part of the reason why this is brought up, it was very apparent when we broached the subject of a year or more for a project like this to move forward, that he feed that off multiple times, and finally at the end, he said, look, here's where we're ended up in the long of the short is, minimally, this goes to Washington DC for approval. And what was his words about what did he say, the unusualness of, how do you say that?
Just the fact that it's not something they do every day. It's
Yeah.
a random process.
Mr. Ruel echoed that and
Yeah.
said that, you know, we kind of can have the best intentions of the world to move this forward as quickly as, we'd like. And it sounds like, we're all in line here, from the
Right.
county to the village to the resort. But I think his point was that even though the FAA may ultimately look at all of this and say, oh yeah, that is a smart idea, it may take them a long time
A long
to
time.
get to that point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think we ought to kind of try to stay focused on the transfer, and given that is, I think everybody recognizes that's gonna be, in terms of time, will be the highest hurdle for us. And there's an awful lot that has to continue to be done in terms of operating the airport. But I think we need to get comfortable with the fact that it's going to continue to be operated under the county officially for quite some time.
Quite some time.
And what are the expectations, both from the village, but also the county commission? They can't just kind of wash their hands of it. And so how do we proceed sort of in that environment?
Correct.
And there's an awful lot of people up here and in the audience that know a heck of a lot more about aviation than I do. But having a consultant on hand that can kind of guide us through this process, I think is going to be critical.
And that was my whole point, is the reason why we're looking at the consultants and
Yeah.
why it's the best idea, the highest standard, is because we have that, Mr. Dan Allison,
Yeah.
who was on, who you haven't had the privilege to meet yet. He's former FAA, has a consulting firm and has done this type of work, and so when it
Right.
comes down to that, like, as you say, either we have to go out for an RFP, which I would assume we will, if we're gonna have a 2-year plus time span, we're gonna exceed, the $60,000.
Yeah.
And so.
That's again up to the mayor, certainly,
Right.
it's the amount of,
Right.
it's easy for us to spend his money, but yeah, I think it sounds like there's gonna be enough meat on the bone here that we're gonna be above that threshold, certainly.
Right, well, that was the whole reason, is just to keep the people informed. There's a reason why that this is gonna take a long time. And when you have the head guy saying, and he has just come to this position from headquarters in Washington, he's versed, but he was very positive about the effort. So that was good to know.
May I break in a second, please?
Yes.
This is Dan Ellison. I want to caution you about, as an ex-FAA employee, 37 years, there's a certain way to talk to the FAA, and then there's another way to talk to the FAA. And that's one of the services that I think I can provide to you, because I know exactly where to go and how to get to the answers that you need to have. So I just wanted to put that out there for the council to let you know that there are 2 levels of conversation with an FAA office. And oftentimes the level that you are at will not be answered quickly. So the other level, with people who know the system, can work inside the system, oftentimes you're able to get your answers quicker. So I just wanted to throw that on the table. I'm not looking for anything. I just want to let you know. So.
Dovetail exactly with my conversations on all of this as well. So yeah, it's one of those things, right? With government, we can all know exactly where we're trying to get to, yet it takes forever and a day to get there. So
Yeah, and the 2 reports, and I'm sorry, and the reports that you were wanting as far as historic data,
Yes,
that's
sir.
all going to have to be done by Freedom of Information. So
Bob, very good, thank you.
there may be some public information out there, but it won't be as in depth as what you're hoping to have.
Thank you.
Dan, are you talking about 5010s and things of that nature?
I'm
They'll
sorry.
actually be- Or were you talking about 5010 reports when you say those things that we're looking at?
Yeah.
acquiring, or-
When I enter into these agreements with the FAA, my approach is I always shoot a FOIA request, requesting any and all information for whatever time period that, you know, we're at 5,000 foot here. So, you know, whatever time period that you're interested in. Now that FOIA request will take anywhere up to 30 days, 30 or 45 days. And then you will receive an official document that states all the information that you wanted. Some of it will be redacted, but most of it will be there and available to you. So I used to do a lot of freedom of information requests for the FAA on major aircraft accidents and airport problems. So just want to let you know that that is available and what the timeframes are and how to approach this. So.
Okay, thank you. So I guess to close out this item, do we have a volunteer to work on the RFP on the board?
Not a voting member, but certainly I'd be glad to. Is that something?
I'll help out.
Yeah, maybe. Is
I mean,
that
I'm more than happy to review it, but
review?
on a few of these committees, and I can't, I
Okay.
apologize, I can't do all the heavy lifting on all of them, so I'm trying to piece that out where I can, but I will absolutely look at it and review it.
And then maybe Mayor Lindsay can help us with a village employee. Mayor Lindsay, can we volunteer Rocky to help with this?
Yeah, I'll be sure and discuss it with Rocky, but I'm sure he'll be eager to help.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on to the next item is the status of the business plan draft, and that no longer a draft. We have that posted.
Yeah, we posted that, it's still out there, you know, I was looking for review and comments specifically from you, and Mayor Lindsay, is that what we're looking at? I think in conversations, I'm hoping that's what we set out to achieve.
My understanding is that Commissioner Kern requested this specifically.
Yes.
And so, that I reviewed it, it looks good to me. I believe at this point, the committee would make a recommendation to council, because I believe it needs to come from council to the commission at that level. I don't know if the mayor has any thoughts on that as well, but, it looked good to me, so if we want to discuss it in more detail right now, it's for some revisions, but, as far as I could tell, looked like it was in pretty ready format to send along, so.
I agree. Agreed. Mayor?
The last version that I saw, I mean, I think is something that I'm prepared to and have asked to be put on, the council will be meeting for a special meeting on Monday. And I've asked that if this business plan is approved today by this committee, that be forwarded to council so that it can then be forwarded to the commission on their 24th meeting with the with the resolution.
Okay, any other comments that you want to? No, since you're the primary author.
We achieved.
I would just like to thank everybody involved for putting that together. I think it's a well executed document and more than fulfills what was asked of us by the county.
Any other comments from a board member, from a committee member? Okay,
So,
get a
yeah,
motion to,
the motion to recommend that council accept the KAXX business plan as drafted September 10, 2024 for forward to Colfax County Commission.
A second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? No one? Okay, that's complete then. Thank you very much, Fraser. That's really good. Okay, moving on to new business. Alvin Riley has been appointed to the transport committee. And that has to be, like I mentioned earlier, approved at the city council at the next meeting, so he's present today and can participate, but he won't be able to vote until that's completed, just to make you aware of that. Okay, item B under new businesses, I guess I've already covered it, so I'm as redundant there. And I think we've got that closed. Was there any other communication with Allison Brooks? Yeah, I didn't either. So nothing to report there. We would like to see the rural air service grant. Just to see what the wording is in there for possible use of, whether there are any requirements that the airport has to close that grant, but, has anyone got any idea where that is?
No, and Mark, I don't wanna go off on tangent.
Yeah.
I understand fully what you're talking about, and I think we've kind of achieved that and maybe even in this meeting now, but were there any concerns that they had with regard to airport capability of handling their service
I
at all?
do not know the answer to that.
Okay.
That's the question.
So, yeah, and again, the county is the operator.
Yeah.
And so I understand that we're trying to get, we'd love it for all to be a great, smooth transition, and then, we're kind of off and running. But, again, I just want to focus on what our task is. If you're asking if Advanced has come back to say, well, we can't do these flights unless, I don't have the answer to that.
Okay. No worries.
And so, if they've had those communications, I would assume those would be with the county.
Yeah, true.
And you haven't heard anything, but I can certainly look into it, and see where they're at. But if the airport is operational currently, then I would assume that it's operational for, this type of plane. I mean, we have bigger planes that fly in and out currently than the 9-seater.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, so, but again, that's just a layperson's opinion on this stuff. I mean, you all know the specific details more than I would, yeah.
Okay, no worries, Mark.
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
sure.
Appreciate it.
If you're talking about targeted scheduled service here, there are some items that can make that go smoother for the operator themselves. And the first one I can think of is de-ice equipment, which we typically don't have here that I'm aware of.
There's a problem with de-icing. De-icing requires specific containment for
You
EPA.
need a recovery area.
You actually have to have an EPA, come out and do an assessment of the.
I understand
So
that.
this is all county business right now.
Yeah.
But the guy flying the airplane can't commence festivities till he's got the ice off the airplane.
Correct.
And that's gonna be an issue here for anybody working schedule of any sort.
But Jim, that can be solved with a hangar too.
Up to a point.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about de-icing in the hangar.
Yeah, and overnighting the hangar.
Fairly.
So that may be one of the requirements, overnighting in a hangar,
Yeah.
if they are leaving the plane overnight. So that's how that would take it.
So all of those, there's a laundry list, as you know, Jim, of things that we can do to improve, and make it more ready for a service like this. I think the only one that in the past has been a concern that is still my greatest concern is ADA compliance. And I hate to open up that can of worms.
Yeah.
But that airport is not ADA compliant, and what I fear is both the county and then eventually as we take it over, lawsuits. Cause there are people out there fishing for these kind of things, so, I think, Mayor, the only reason I brought that up is that might be in conversation with the county to say, what are these things that they have, as the question was asked, what would Advanced Air want to see? Because we need to be knowledgeable of those to put that in our plan as expenses. and that ADA, and as Jim said, yeah, down the road, things like de-icing and. So just throwing that out there.
Oh, I agree.
Just your entryways and access issues and restrooms and all that kind of stuff is gonna require a fair amount of modification for compliance.
That's right. Yeah. And it's been known for several years. And nothing down.
Okay, if I may, let's talk a little bit about de-icing. You can stick an airplane in a hangar all night long, but there's what they call a holdover time between the time that the aircraft comes out of that hangar until it gets down the end of the runway and breaks wheels. That's a critical issue. So it can build up, that de-icing or that icing can build up on that aircraft quickly between that period of time. So just be aware that there is a thing called holdover time.
Yeah,
Right.
and typically with that, if the ice load is accumulating while they're waiting for departure, you wanna have ice equipment so they can come back and de-ice once again and try and get out. So there's more than one attempt at complying with the clean airframe for this usually, when the conditions are that bad.
Okay, that definitely is an area that's for the future, but we're just wanting to add it to our list of things to be aware of. I think then I'm ready to move to item E, which I put on there mainly just to say that we're not seeking a Part 139. And for those that aren't familiar with all this, all these parts come from the federal regulations. The CFR 14, basically, it's got all these regulations in it. And the 139 certification is for a huge airline. We're not gonna have a huge airline. We're gonna have a King Air with less or 9 or less personnel on board, so we do not have to do a Part 139, and that's just to let everybody know more or less than anything. And then for item F, I started keeping a list of all the things I've heard from the audience, and maybe added a few in there that I've talked to other people about. Of things that are on that list, I think icing would be one of the ones that gets added to the list. So that's what that list is for. It's just, and if anybody's got anything else they think we need to be looking at and talking about, then let us know. Do you have additional items to put on there at all?
Fraser, was I amiss in reading about potential de-icing in this plan? Did you not have it in there?
think I took it out of there just from a standpoint of that's so far down the line that really we're just, you know, as Mark indicated earlier, the focus of this group is, you know, let's get that approval process in the works, and then I think the next step is, you know, looking at the consultant and writing a statement of work, SOW, and getting the RFP ready for that consultant to nursemaid this thing through the bureaucratic process that we're gonna have to start wading into. So, I mean, you know, the business plan to me was the easy part, writing for the county to get that approval process. The hard part comes after that.
Exactly. Okay, anyone else have any comments? In the audience? Nope. One addition?
Not to item F. We're done with item F.
We're done with that now. I'm asking for any other.
Okay, this would be directed at the mayor. Just a thought, after our last meeting, I was, contacted by one of my neighbors who immediately was terrified that Southwest Airlines would be flying in here, twice a day. And it was based on, something that was put out on Facebook, okay, which is kind of the normal culprit, right? So how about considering us having an airport page on Facebook that we can pick an administrator and we can actually throw things like once approved this business plan or things like that out there where people, and we can talk and maybe answer questions. Just an idea. for public relations?
So I think public relations is very important, and we're trying to do a much better job of that. But I am very hesitant to do anything on Facebook for the obvious reasons. Currently, if we post information as a village, we don't respond to comments on the majority of the pages. Where we let people share those pages and then people can comment there. I'm not, I will say it's not that I don't like Facebook. I used to participate in Facebook to some degree, and I think it has some very useful instances, but I don't want to have to monitor it or defend it or worry about someone speaking out of turn. But I do think a PR campaign of some kind, and I'm not opposed. I mean, I would consider it more, but at this time, I'm hesitant to start a Facebook page. But I think more discussion could be in order, possibly some other ideas. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I just don't think the conversations on Facebook are very productive. I think we can steer people to the right people to ask the questions. These meetings, I briefly saw the audience when Jim was speaking. It doesn't look like many people are here today. I do encourage the public's participation and certainly want to be transparent, but again, I'm just reluctant to use Facebook as that tool.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I am too. I wasn't trying to be specific for Facebook, but more as just a site, some way that people can get information.
I'm happy. Anything that we want to post and approve and post to the village website and to the village Facebook page, just to have that information out there. But again, I think it would be a big ask for somebody to monitor and respond to the comments. And as you can see, those things get out of hand in a hurry. So again, I'm just reluctant there, but I do think that PR is an extremely important part of everything we're doing at the village. So I encourage anything that we can to positively get our message and correct information to the public.
Thank you.
Can we as a committee take on the job of publicizing some parts of this via a letter or note or whatever?
Adding to his page or a
yes.
subsection?
Certainly. I encourage the committee to do that. I think that's going above and beyond, but I really feel like that's would be extremely helpful to get anything condensed down into to where we can keep the public informed of where the committee is and what our goals are and the overall purpose of acquiring the airport from the county. Yes.
I'm Mary Ann McDonald. I'm a co-chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Oh, thanks.
And we try to make our meeting minutes reflect actual things that our committee is undertaking and what we plan to do. I would suggest that your secretary put out information. Rocky will post them online and it will be associated with this meeting. And that's one way to get the word out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. And I think I saw, just to ask you, you have an airport individual on that committee, correct?
Well, Mark Manley is also on our committee.
Okay. I saw a Mark, but I didn't know what the last name was.
By default, I'm gonna be looking at transportation issues for the comp plan, so I'm gonna try to attend committee meetings. I'm only a part-time resident. I will be here through the end of October, and then thereafter I may tune in on your Zoom and
Sure.
hear what's going on.
That'd be great. Yeah, if we got a conflict between your plan and our plan, that's probably not
Oh,
good.
no, there won't be.
Okay.
No, we're looking to your results to place in our plan. We're not gonna be venturing out beyond what you guys come up with.
Well, great. I saw some of your information the other day. I was wondering about that, so thanks for attending. Any other comments from anyone?
If we do have a sort of outreach in terms of social media, that kind of thing to inform people. I would agree with the mayor that, it's a smart thing for us to do. I will just say, based on my experience in kind of dealing with these resort issues, it's better to simply make statements and provide the information.
Like a press release?
Yeah,
Is that kind of
that
thing?
type of thing, as opposed to getting down into the responses. There is a group of folks I think we're all aware of in this community that are small in number, but quite vocal online as the keyboard warriors they are, that'll say something online, but then if you're actually standing in front of them, it's a completely different communication. So I don't think we ought to get into all of that. I think people are smart enough to sift through the information and the comments, and they can tell what is correct and what's not. And if somebody really does think that Southwest is about to service Angel Fire, I don't know what we can do about that. That'd be a lovely thing to have.
I lobbied for that for 20 years.
Yeah. So the people that kind of know what's going on, I think are savvy enough to sit through the information, but that small group, we're never gonna.
I mean, are you aware that Taos had an article on this already?
Yeah, no,
And from what I heard, I haven't actually read it yet, but it sounded like misinformation was already in that. So it would help to clarify some of that if they would publish some of our press releases, for instance.
Indeed. It's just a matter of getting the right information out, and as was mentioned, I'm sure that Clerk Lira will help with that. But yeah, it should just be, here's the information, here's what was just a condensed version of our minutes even.
Right.
That's just, short so that people can read it, absorb it, move on if they want, comment if they want, but I think that.
No, I think a huge part of this is just the fact that as we've already spoken, it's a year out at least. I mean, this is a long process. It isn't happening next week.
Right.
That's just to get it started.
Right.
And I don't think that's totally clear. Some people probably think next week that council meeting is the final move, and it's not close.
There appears to be some confusion between the raise grant and that charter air service, and then what this committee has been charged with, and what we're trying to accomplish. And it gets confusing. So
Yeah, if we can create less confusion, that would
Sure.
be nice.
Sure.
Okay,
Agreed.
very good comments. Thank you. Anyone else? Alan? Okay, let's adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
That are here. I brought a video just to entertain. I worked on collision avoidance in this airplane for the Air Force. So I've got some videos of that, if you're interested in watching them. If I can get it to work, I gotta go.
You're gonna try it right now.
I was gonna try it as soon as Zoom was over, yes.
All right.